Tormentors degraded the African-American student, unaware she held the title of underground fighting champion. "Look here, Venus Williams wannabe, forgot your tennis equipment," shouted Dylan Martinez, the football team's leader, shoving Maya Johnson into the metal lockers at Roosevelt High School's corridor. The clanging noise reverberated through the packed hallway as over 50 students paused to witness the drama unfold. 17-year-old Maya never anticipated how inaugural day at this new institution would transform into a lunchtime spectacle. She had relocated from an urban school after her mother secured improved employment. While she expected differences, she hadn't prepared for such harsh treatment. "Look at this, everyone," Dylan announced, addressing his spectators. Seemed someone wandered away from their neighborhood. His companions erupted in artificial laughter, the performative kind teenagers display when seeking their leader's approval. What they failed to recognize was Maya's silent counting technique. 1, 2, 3 measured breaths, a method she'd mastered 2 years prior when she began boxing to channel her grief following her father's passing. 4, 5, 6. Her gaze remained downcast, not from terror or embarrassment. "What's wrong?" "Lost your voice," taunted Madison Pierce, the school's social queen, capturing everything on her smartphone. "Or do you only communicate in whatever language they speak in your old neighborhood?" Maya gradually lifted her head, her eyes meeting Dylan's. For an instant, something passed between them. He looked away first, puzzled by the complete serenity in her expression. It resembled gazing into still waters, peaceful on the surface yet concealing powerful undercurrents beneath. "Pardon me," Maya spoke quietly, her voice carrying traces of an accent she'd spent years moderating. "Were you addressing me?" The crowd chuckled again, believing they'd shattered her confidence. However, Jesse Chun, a reserved Asian student who typically dined alone, detected something unusual. Maya's stance wasn't submissive. It belonged to someone evaluating, measuring, preparing. Dylan stepped closer, his heated breath against her face. "Listen carefully, street royalty. Here's the arrangement. People like you stay silent, avoid eye contact, and don't create disturbances. Understood?" "People like me," Maya echoed, savoring each syllable. A slight smile crossed her lips without reaching her eyes. "What category of person do you believe I am?" "Dylan." Her use of his name startled him. How did she know it? They'd never been introduced. How did she maintain such composure? "The type who'll learn proper respect," he responded, pushing her again. This time, Maya flowed with a force rather than resisting, a movement so fluid it resembled choreography. Dylan stumbled slightly, surprised by her lack of opposition. A memory flashed through Maya's mind. Coach Rodriguez 3 months earlier at Underground Fitness Gym. "Maya, you possess extraordinary potential. Not merely technical ability, but hey," he tapped his chest. "You fight with both heart and intellect. That combination will carry you far." Madison paused her recording. "Guys, she's acting strange. Why isn't she crying?" "Maybe she's accustomed to this," suggested Kevin Walsh, Dylan's closest friend. "Consider where she originated." Maya closed her eyes momentarily. 7, 8, 9 breaths. When she reopened them, something new had emerged, a frigid determination that made several students instinctively retreat. "Have you finished?" she inquired, adjusting her backpack strap. "I have chemistry class in 5 minutes, and despite your assumptions, I genuinely value my education." The straightforward, direct response cut through the tension like a blade. This wasn't their expected reaction. Where were the tears? The desperation and submission that would validate their preconceptions about her identity? Dylan sensed his authority dissolving. "You'll regret addressing me this way," he whispered low enough for only her to hear. "I make people's lives miserable when they disrespect me." "I'm certain you do," Maya replied, meeting his gaze again. "But the question remains, have you ever encountered someone who emerged from misery and survived to share their story?" The hallway grew unnaturally quiet. Even Madison ceased filming, sensing the atmospheric shift. Other students began whispering amongst themselves, confused by the unexpected dynamic change. Maya began walking away but stopped and turned back. "Oh, Dylan." He stared at her, still processing the encounter. "Thank you for the reception. It was quite informative." As she proceeded down the corridor, her steps were measured and controlled with grace resembling a feline. Jesse Chun observed, fascinated, noticing how Maya kept her shoulders relaxed while her hands remained slightly closed, not in fists, but in something more subtle, more ready. What nobody in that hallway understood was that Maya Johnson had just memorized every face, every name, every insult. That evening, she would perform her 2-year ritual, recording everything in a small crimson notebook where she documented every injustice, every challenge, every person who underestimated a 17-year-old black girl from the inner city. The same notebook containing the entry, Underground Championship, 15 consecutive victories. Next match, Saturday. The following morning, Maya discovered that public humiliation was merely the opening act. Madison's video had become viral on the school's social media with the caption, "New student learning the hierarchy faced with tears of joy # welcome to Roosevelt # know your place." 342 likes and comments that stung like poison. She retreated to where she belongs. LOL. She won't survive a week here. At least she showed manners, right? Maya scrolled through the screen, memorizing every username, every cruel remark. In her crimson notebook, she wrote methodically, Day 2, Organized Cyberbullying. Evidence, screenshots attached. Her penmanship remained perfectly controlled, as if documenting a history lesson. During lunch break, Dylan and his group occupied the table adjacent to Hayes in the cafeteria. "Hey everyone, observe this," he announced loudly enough for half the dining area to hear. "Our celebrity has arrived. How many views has your video accumulated? Maya, you must be proud of your notoriety." Jessica Chun, seated alone 2 tables away, studied Maya carefully. Something about her posture, relaxed shoulders, controlled breathing, alert yet calm eyes, didn't match someone being victimized. She appeared more like someone conducting research. "Dylan," Maya said without glancing up from her chemistry textbook, "have you ever considered why you require an audience to feel courageous?" The subsequent silence was overwhelming. Kevin Walsh nearly choked on his beverage. Madison stopped creating her own social media story. The question had struck something vulnerable that Dylan kept carefully hidden. "Mind your words," he snarled, rising. "You still don't comprehend how things operate here." Maya finally looked at him, and for a moment Dylan glimpsed something in her eyes that made him flinch involuntarily. It was the same expression his father wore when about to lose control. Cold, calculating, dangerous. "Actually," Maya closed the book slowly, "I understand completely. You govern through intimidation because it's simpler than owning genuine respect. You use social influence as a crutch because alone, you're just an insecure adolescent who discovered that inflicting pain on others hurts less than addressing your own trauma." The cafeteria fell completely silent. Even the staff stopped cleaning tables. Nobody spoke to Dylan Martinez that way. Nobody dared. Kevin stood menacingly. "You'll regret this." "Possibly," Maya admitted, placing the book in her backpack. "But you'll regret something too. The difference is I chose my regret consciously." As she stood to leave, Dylan grasped her arm. It wasn't gentle. It was possessive, controlling, the type of gesture that leaves marks. Maya examined his hand on her arm, then met his eyes. "Remove your hand," she said softly. "Or what?" Dylan squeezed harder. A memory crossed Maya's mind. 3 years ago at her father's funeral. He had died of lung cancer at 42, leaving behind a wife without a degree and a 14-year-old daughter who promised at his graveside that she would never become anyone's victim again. Coach Rodriguez had appeared at the funeral, a towering black man with weathered hands and compassionate eyes. "Your daughter is angry, Mrs. Johnson," he had told her mother. "Anger can destroy a person, or it can create a warrior. The choice is Hayes." Maya had chosen to be a warrior. "Remove your hand," she repeated, her voice still calm but charged with something new. Dylan felt the muscles in her arm tense beneath his grip. It wasn't the tension of fear. It was the tension of someone preparing for action. The force with which she broke free surprised him. It wasn't violent. It was technical. A small, precise movement that broke his grip with apparent ease. Dylan stared at his own hand, confused, as if it had simply dissolved. "How did you?" he began. "Self-defense," Maya explained casually. "My mother enrolled me after some boys attempted to rob me walking home from school." You understand the situation, right? Black girls from the projects need to know how to protect themselves. Madison frowned. Self-defense doesn't teach that. Maya smiled for the first time since the previous day. You're correct. Basic self-defense doesn't teach that. She paused. But I didn't say I studied basic self-defense. Jessica Chun watched Maya exit the cafeteria with movements that seemed almost cat-like. Each step was precise, economical, as if she were perpetually in a subtle fighting stance without it being obvious. That afternoon during physical education, Maya wore the mandatory school uniform, standard shorts and a t-shirt that revealed what her regular clothing concealed. Her arms were subtly but unmistakably sculpted. Not exaggerated muscles, but the specific definition of someone who had been training with purpose for years. "Wow," whispered one basketball team member to another. "Look at her arms. That girl definitely works out." Dylan noticed too. During volleyball, he observed how Maya moved, always perfectly balanced with reflexes too quick to be natural. A coordination that only comes with intensive training. When the ball flew toward her, Maya didn't simply defend it. She controlled it with surgical precision, redirecting it exactly where she intended. The movement was so smooth it appeared coincidental. But Dylan was beginning to suspect that nothing about Maya Johnson was coincidental. After class, he followed her to the lockers. "You're not who you appear to be, are you?" Maya was changing clothes with efficient movements. "Nobody is who they appear to be. Dylan, that's the first rule of survival." "Survival?" He laughed nervously. "What kind of life did you have that required learning survival?" Maya studied him for a long moment. "The kind where you learn there are two types of people in the world, those who protect the vulnerable and those who exploit them. And you learn to recognize the difference very quickly." "And which type are you?" "I'm still deciding," Maya replied, closing the locker. "But I know exactly which type you are." That evening, Maya was at the Underground Gym, a training facility hidden in an industrial warehouse where young people from the suburbs came to box away from society's scrutiny. Coach Rodriguez was adjusting her bandages when she told him about the school events. "They are testing you," he said, his experienced hands checking each rep. "They want to see how far they can push you before you break." "I won't break." "I know, but the question is, will you reveal yourself?" Coach Rodriguez stopped working and looked into her eyes. "Maya, you have 15 consecutive wins on the underground circuit. You've knocked out opponents twice your weight. But your greatest power isn't your physical strength. It's that nobody suspects what you're capable of." Maya nodded, understanding the implication. "Keep the secret for now. But if they escalate beyond verbal intimidation..." Coach Rodriguez didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They both knew Maya had promised on her father's grave that she would never be anyone's victim again. The next morning, Maya found her locker covered in graffiti. "Go back to the ghetto" in red letters. Students passed by taking pictures, turning her humiliation into morning entertainment. Dylan appeared beside her, feigning surprise. "Wow, that's terrible. Who would do that?" His friends laughed loudly, making it obvious who the culprits were. Maya touched the red letters, feeling the paint still slightly damp. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "red is a fascinating color. It symbolizes passion, power, and danger." "Really?" Dylan leaned closer. "To me, it just symbolizes that you're learning your lesson." Maya turned to him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "The only lesson I'm learning is that some people mistake patience for weakness. And when they discover the difference," she paused, "well, it's usually too late for them." Each humiliation only fueled something inside her that her tormentors couldn't see, a cold, calculated determination being forged by the very injustice they tried to impose. What Dylan and his friends didn't know was that every insult, every shove, every moment of contempt was being carefully documented in a crimson notebook that would become the key to their own downfall. On Wednesday, Maya arrived early to find Jessica Chun cleaning her vandalized locker with supplies she'd brought from home. "You don't have to do that," Maya said softly. But Jessica shook her head. "I understand what it's like to be different here. Dylan made my life hell freshman year until I became invisible." Jessica hesitated. "But you're not becoming invisible. You're doing something different." Maya studied Jessica's face. What kind of different? Yesterday, when Dylan grabbed you and you broke free, my father taught me some basic self-defense. That wasn't basic. For the first time in days, Maya smiled genuinely. Where's your family from? Korea. My father was a boxer before he immigrated. He always said he could identify a fighter by the way they move. Jessica finished cleaning the locker. You're a fighter, aren't you? Maya evaluated Jessica for a long moment. Self-defense. My mother enrolled me when we moved here. Classes where? Why do you want to know? Jessica showed a small scar on her wrist. Because Dylan has marked you as his primary target. When he does that, things escalate. He doesn't stop until he completely breaks you. At that moment, Dylan appeared with Kevin and Madison. When he saw Jessica standing next to Maya, his face contorted. Look, the Asian refugee made a new friend. How adorable. Jessica instinctively shrank back, but Maya stepped forward, positioning herself between Dylan and Jessica. The movement was subtle but protective. Dylan, shouldn't you be studying for your civil rights history exam? The irony made some students chuckle, and Dylan realized he was being mocked. Very amusing, but civil rights won't protect you when I decide to teach you more practical lessons. Practical lessons. Maya repeated thoughtfully. Like what exactly? Kevin approached menacingly. Like not speaking to boys who aren't at your level. Dylan smiled cruelly. Your level is where people like you have always been, serving people like us, staying quiet when real men are talking. The whole way fell silent. Maya looked Dylan in the eye for a long moment. Real men. Tell me more about that. Not being intimidated by girls who think they are special. I see. And intimidation will be part of being a real man, too. Dylan felt cornered. I don't intimidate anyone. I just teach respect. Like you did to Thomas Miller last year. The blood drained from Dylan's face. Thomas Miller had attempted suicide after months of torment, an incident hushed up by Dylan's influential family. How did you? Dylan began. Thomas is fine now. By the way, he transferred to a school where he can be himself. Jessica looked at Maya with new respect. She had researched Dylan. You don't know anything about Thomas, Dylan said, but his voice had lost its confidence. I know he tried to hang himself after you posted those videos. I know he spent 3 months in therapy, and I know you all thought it was hilarious. Maya took out her phone and showed screenshots of old social media posts with Kevin and Madison laughing about Tommy the Crybaby. The internet never forgets. Dylan. Madison tried to grab the phone, but Maya tucked it away quickly. Where did you get this? Public posts. Anyone can see them, including parents, principals, and authorities interested in cyberbullying that led to a suicide attempt. Dylan was pale. You can't prove anything. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to document it. Maya glanced at the crowd of recording phones. And it looks like everyone else is documenting it just fine. That night, Maya opened her laptop and sent a message to an address she had memorized. Evidence collected. Witnesses aligned. Ready for next phase. The reply came within minutes. Documentation approved. Proceed as planned. In her crimson notebook, she wrote, Day 5, ally confirmed. Jessica-chan, antagonist showing signs of desperation. Thomas Miller file, weapon loaded. Next phase, full exposure. What Dylan didn't know yet was that Maya had secretly contacted other students he had tormented. The file she was building wasn't just about bullying. It was about a systematic pattern that was about to explode in a way that would destroy not only his reputation, but the entire structure that allowed people like him to thrive. Because Maya Johnson wasn't just a girl seeking personal justice. She was part of something bigger. And Dylan Martinez had just become the perfect example of what happens when predators choose the wrong prey. On Friday morning, Dylan arrived at school to find posters scattered throughout the hallways. Justice for Thomas Miller. The truth about bullying at Roosevelt High. Below, QR codes directed to a website with screenshots, videos, and testimonials from dozens of students. How did she get this? Dylan muttered, scanning the code. The page revealed 3 years of documented systematic abuse, including photos of him and his friends laughing while Thomas cried in the bathroom moments before his suicide attempt. Madison came running, Hysterical. Dylan, my parents are going to kill me. The video is everywhere. Reddit, TikTok, Twitter. During break, Dylan burst into the library where Maya sat quietly. You ruined my life. My college scholarship is gone, and Thomas's family is suing. Maya looked at him with her usual calm. You're worried about consequences. Thomas was worried about staying alive when you posted those videos of him naked in the locker room. That was 2 years ago. It was just a joke. A joke? Maya opened her laptop. Let's see what Thomas thought. The screen showed a video that made Dylan recoil. It was Thomas Miller, now 19, in a professional studio. My name is Thomas Miller. Dylan Martinez and his friends turned my life into hell. When I heard he was doing the same thing to Maya Johnson, I wanted to help. Dylan was pale. Where did this come from? Thomas majored in psychology and works in suicide prevention. Maya replied. He contacted me 3 weeks ago offering his help. The video continued. Maya Johnson isn't just a transfer student. She's an undefeated state champion with 15 consecutive wins on the underground circuit. But more importantly, she's never bowed down to bullies. Kevin tried to close the laptop, but Maya stopped him with such a quick movement that he stumbled. The most interesting part, Maya said calmly, is that I didn't have to lie about anything. You assumed I was weak because I'm black and new to school. Madison was crying. Our lives are over. Your lives are changed. Maya stood up. Thomas almost had his life literally ended. How many lives did you think you could destroy without consequences? Dylan tried to regain control. You can't prove I did anything wrong now. Maya smiled coldly. Dylan, do you really think I didn't document every second? She opened a folder showing organized timestamps. Monday, physical assault. Tuesday, coordinated cyberbullying. Wednesday, racial intimidation. But here's the best part. You did all of this knowing I was recording because you thought a girl like me would never have the courage to fight back. You can't use that. It's illegal to record without consent. Not in public areas of the school, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see Principal Washington with 2 men in suits and a prosecutor. Mr. Martinez, the principal said formally, you are suspended. The police want to ask you questions about the Thomas Miller case, and there's new evidence of systematic bullying. Dylan looked around desperately. This is absurd. She set me up. Yes, Maya agreed simply. I planned it. I documented every crime, contacted every victim, collected every piece of evidence you were too arrogant to hide. The difference is that I used the truth. The prosecutor approached. Mr. Martinez, we have evidence of a pattern that constitutes criminal harassment, cyberbullying, and possibly hate crimes. Madison sobbed. Maya, please, we can talk. We know we were terrible. Maya looked at her with almost pity. Madison, you had 3 years to choose change. You chose to escalate the cruelty. Some actions have permanent consequences. As Dylan was escorted away, he turned around one last time. You think you're better than us, but you're just another bully. Maya met his eyes and replied clearly. The difference, Dylan, is that I use my strength to protect people who can't protect themselves. You use yours to hurt those trying to survive. That doesn't make us the same. It makes us opposites. When the commotion died down, Jessica approached. How did you know it would work? Maya closed her laptop. People like Dylan always make the same mistake. They assume physical strength is all that matters. They never consider knowledge, patience, justice, and the ability to turn pain into purpose. Coach Rodriguez appeared, nodding approvingly. How do you feel? I don't feel joy. This isn't revenge. It's ensuring he can never do this to anyone else. And showing everyone that people like us don't have to accept being treated as less than human. In the silence that followed, something had fundamentally changed at Roosevelt High. It wasn't just that Dylan had been removed. It was what Maya had proven possible when someone refuses to accept injustice and has the intelligence to fight back the right way. 6 months later, Maya stood on stage in the Roosevelt High Auditorium holding the Student of the Year award as the entire school gave her a standing ovation. Her mother cried with pride in the front row, watching her daughter be celebrated by the same community that had nearly destroyed her. This award isn't just mine. Maya said into the microphone. It belongs to all the students who chose to protect each other instead of hurting each other. Jessica Chun, now president of the school's anti-bullying club, smiled from the audience. Thomas Miller had flown in especially for the ceremony, recording everything to show how a 17-year-old girl had changed an entire school. Dylan Martinez was across town, completing 400 hours of community service. Expelled from Roosevelt and rejected by colleges after the viral scandal, he worked at a homeless shelter. For the first time in years, he felt the genuine satisfaction of helping rather than hurting. Madison Pierce had lost her social media followers, her friends abandoning her when her reputation crumbled. Now she was in therapy, finally confronting the demons that had turned her into a cruel person. Roosevelt High had become a national model for combating bullying. The anti-bullying program wasn't just posters. It was a real system where students like Maya trained others to recognize and combat injustice. The best part, Maya explained to a documentary crew about the school, wasn't destroying Dylan. It was showing that people like us never had to accept being treated like we were less than human. The video of Maya receiving her award had surpassed 5 million views, inspiring anti-bullying movements in schools across the country. At graduation, Maya was chosen as valedictorian. Some of you know my story about revenge and justice. But what I want you to remember isn't how you punish those who hurt you. It's how you choose to use your strength to build something better. Dylan, who had been granted permission to attend as part of his rehabilitation, applauded with tears streaming down his face. Maya, you saved me from becoming a monster forever. Dylan, you always had a choice about what kind of person you wanted to be. I just made it harder for you to choose the harmful version. Maya had learned the most important lesson. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building a world where people like them can't thrive by hurting the vulnerable. When you transform pain into purpose, you don't just win, you inspire a revolution. The girl who was underestimated for being black and from the inner city had become living proof that some people are born to be leaders who show others how to refuse to accept the unacceptable. What would you do in Maya's position? Share your thoughts if you face prejudice and how you responded. This story demonstrates that true justice doesn't destroy, it transforms everything around it.